ladies and gentlemen, the cloud, multi-cloud and cloud native paved the way for AI. We're looking at talking about multi-cloud adoption and modernizing information architecture for AI, the value position of Kubernetes and the cloud native technologies, challenges and solutions for hybrid multi-cloud, and blueprint for successful application modernization. Well, ladies and gentlemen, for our panelists, we're joined by Dr. Avadut Chandrakant Parab, the Global CIO of Wockhardt. Well, Dr. Avadut is a business and IT strategist with over 22 years of experience in enterprise systems across the globe. He also has a track record to transform in the area of computer system validations of IT and OT systems and lead to zero data integrity level. Ladies and gentlemen, we're also joined by Neeraj Bhople, the Chief Technology Officer Seniority. Neeraj has been in the IT industry for over 21 years in various capacities, the latest being as the CTO of Seniority, an e-commerce company selling products curated for senior citizens. Abhishek Shahi Kumar is also joining us, who's a cloud and platform technology expert. Well, Abhishek has 17 plus years of IT experience in taking challenges, tapping new business opportunities, delivering high-risk engagements successfully, and coming out as a winner. Ladies and gentlemen, we're also joined by Sudhir Tumuluru, the head of platform engineering Myntra. Well, Sudhir has worked in various tech companies for 15 years in various technical leadership positions in the US. He's passionate about cloud and all the things distributed and large scale and holds a master's degree in computer science. And ladies and gentlemen, this entire panel discussion and conversation is going to be moderated by Ninad Raji, the Director and CIO Health Assure. Well, Ninad is a visionary information technology, healthcare, insurance, and finance services senior leadership professional with an in-depth knowledge and 26 plus years of experience in successfully spearheading large global organizations. Well, ladies and gentlemen, with this, I present to you our eminent panelists on your stage and screen, also for our audience who's viewing us live. If you do have any questions for our panel, our eminent panel, please do type in the Q&A tab. We will pass it on to our moderator, Ninad, at the end of the session. If time allows, he'll be taking it forward. Over to you, Ninad, with your eminent panel ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, Bhavna. It's great to know you and great to know the panelists as well. I think since morning, it has been great sessions all across, technology leaders speaking on different and eminent topics as well. I think we have gained a lot of experience and knowledge through it. So thank you so much. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and a very warm welcome to all of you. It is an absolute pleasure to be a part of the World Cloud Show, which in my opinion is quite a unique concept, which brings together the best that technology has to offer. As you are aware, AI, IoT, AR, VR, robotics, data analytics are quite prevalent nowadays in the technology circles. Add to that the entire bonhomie around cloud. We keep hearing about cloud, native cloud, hybrid cloud, multi-cloud, etc., etc. But are these just buzzwords, or is there any real merit associated with it? Does cloud really pave the way for AI? These are quite pertinent questions, and I'm sure all of you are quite eager to know and understand the basis of this. And what better way than hearing from those who are quite well entrenched and richly experienced in these concepts. Together with us today is an elite panel of experts who have years and years of hands-on experience in cloud and AI technologies. On behalf of the World Cloud Show, I welcome them to his panel. Without further ado, let's discuss and gain insights and also some wisdom from these eminent technologists. So let's begin with Sudhir Tumuluru from Myntra. He's from Myntra. Sudhir, in your opinion, does multi-cloud adoption and modernizing information architecture help in AI?
Yeah, I must say it actually does, and pretty immensely. I have been through this journey from in the analytics space back when there was just the enterprise data warehouse. If you see how both cloud and AI spaces have evolved over the past decade, they have really revolutionize the types of data and also the volume of data that can be stored in a very, very cost-effective manner and at our fingertips. 10 to 15 years ago, the enterprise data warehouse was only catered to like business reporting and more post-facto insights, like after the fact, how much money was collected, what were the customers doing and so on. But with cloud and large-scale data lakes like AWS S3, Azure Blob Store, coming in, it's really possible to collect all types of data, not just structured data. in a variety of different formats and varying degrees of pre-processing, and analyze these, offline or online. These could be clickstream data sets, CRM data, and what have you. Now, with the advent of AI and ML, these large-scale data sets can now be analyzed with these vast compute available at our fingertips and can be elastically expanded. This cannot be overstated. And really, the elasticity is the cornerstone of what unlocks the potential of AI. With predictive analytics and ML algorithms on these large time-scale user behaviors, that could be done. The sky is the limit. And now AI and ML can bring down customization and recommendations. I work in an e-commerce company, so this is very, very core to us. Bringing those customizations and recommendations down to the individual user level, rather than just doing traditional customer segmentation at a more macro level and a coarse-grained level. This is just an example, but we use this in across the board. And now AI and ML form the backbone of every customer widget that we surface on our websites, whether it is at Myntra now and Flipkart before. This has been the cornerstone of success for us to increase our stickiness.
Great, Sudhir. Those were really good insights. In fact, for those in the audience, along with his technology prowess, you can get connected to Sudhir for any fashion-related activities sort of as well, because he's from Myntra and has been there for a long, long time. So Sudhir, it's interesting because you mentioned the sky is the limit and elasticity and the data lakes as well. So if you can just give us certain insights on the data lakes, is there any specific way and method to sort of build and ensure the data lakes are also stable?
I think, the clouds have, whether it is any public cloud, you can talk about multi-cloud. If you have data really has inertia, and it is hard to move data around between these clouds. But no matter whether you are on a single cloud or a multi-cloud or on your on-prem, having data collected at one place and documented and cataloged is super important. That way you can leverage it. In my experience, both S3 and Blob Store, whichever you choose, have been highly scalable, very stable and resilient, and cost effective as well. So once you build those, then you can attach any amount of compute, like whether it is a traditional data warehouse like Redshift, or with Azure Synapse, you'd be able to attach to do traditional data warehousing MPP stuff. Or you could do the big data, HD Insights, Hadoop-based workloads, and attach Hive, Spark, all kinds of transforms. And you can also plug in ML models along the way into these all these technologies. If you see all the tech at reInvent that you see this week and Azure's offerings, you would see this space is heating up quite a bit.
Absolutely, Sudhir. I think there's no doubt about it. The space is heating up in the technology field, especially the retail sector. So from that perspective, thanks, Sudhir, for your insights as well. And since you mentioned about the tech space is really heating up in the retail sector, we have another eminent panelist, Neeraj Bople from Seniority. He's also from the retail sector. So Neeraj, moving on to you. Can you share some insights on value propositions of Kubernetes and cloud native technologies with your immense experience? I guess you are the best person to kind of give us those insights.
Yeah. See, any organization faces three main challenges when it comes to their IT stack or IT applications that they have built over the years. One is when they come up with a new idea and they want to launch it, really quickly. Second is if they already have a set of applications that have been built over the years, especially if they are monolithic applications or not service-oriented, then converting them into a service-oriented architecture and also putting it into the cloud rather than on-prem to use the advantages of cloud completely. And the third is scaling of what you have already built. For all of this, the cloud native stack and especially Kubernetes plays an important role, especially for the second two, when you are looking at migrating from your existing on-prem application stack or a monolithic application stack. when you have everything available for you in a set of technologies on any of the clouds, any of the public clouds that you can think of, or if for that matter, you can also implement it on-prem. But when you have those technologies available where you can easily scale up the infra based on the load, your the microservices that you want to enable, if you want to convert your existing monolithic application stack into a microservices based stack. So that scaling up of that, the agility that it provides, the way you can monitor all of these things, all that is very easily and readily available in these cloud native technologies which are available. So the main value proposition that I think of all of this is that you have all the set of tools available readily for you. It's up to you how many of them do you want to use it, what all you want to use it from it. Instead of reinventing the wheel and trying to build everything on-prem and trying to build everything from scratch, you use these technologies, move your code, move your application stack into the new technology stack, and after that, the scaling of that is, it's so easy. You don't have to do anything, and it gets scaled automatically, whether it's the infra that you're talking about, or whether it is even the number of services getting spawned off, etc. The memory management, all of that is automatically taken care of for you. So that's, I think, the biggest value proposition of cloud native technologies, including Kubernetes for that matter. Yeah.
Sure. Great, Neeraj. In fact, that's really helpful. You touched upon the scalability aspect, right? Which is very important when it comes to cloud. And that probably is the biggest benefit of any cloud infrastructure. Yeah. So whilst we're talking about the cloud infrastructure, however, the scalability of the applications also matters a lot, Whilst the cloud infra from the hardware perspective and so on and so forth, memory, sizing, it can take care of itself. But how come, can you give us insights on the application architecture? How can you easily scale up your application to match the cloud infra, which is automated as of now? So probably you can give us certain insights on that.
See, to convert your existing application stack into a cloud native enabled architecture, you have to convert from a monolithic application architecture style, which has been there for a long time, to a more service oriented style. And when you move to the service oriented style, there also you have to, since cloud native is about implementing microservices, you'll have to think of your application, whether it's a new one or migrating from existing one. You have to think of it in terms of business services that are getting provided by different modules of your entire application stack. Once you have done that, that's when you can start moving it to the cloud native stack, cloud native technologies or tool stack, because it's all about the number of services or identifying the right kind of services that each of these modules are going to, are going to provide. And once you have those identified, putting it into cloud native stack I won't say it's a simple game, but the main task is about identification of the right services rather than actually moving it into the cloud native stack. That's where you should start, or that's where the main focus of every organization should be from the business angle.
Great. I think you touched base on a very pertinent sort of point in terms of the cloud native and linking it to the business. In fact, currently and as of now in today's day and age, it's very important to link it to the business appropriately. Otherwise, it probably does not make any sense. So thanks for the insights, Neeraj. We'll now move on to Dr. Avadhut Parab. He's from Vocard and into the hospital and the healthcare space. Doc, if I may ask you, in today's day and age, cloud has become the quintessential element within the digital tech space. Can you share with us the challenges you faced and solutions that you deployed for hybrid or multi-cloud?
Good afternoon, everyone. I hope I'm audible. So, Ninad, it has been wonderful listening to Sudhir and the colleague. So, I think multi-cloud and hybrid cloud are interchangeably used unknowingly, knowingly by many one of us, while they completely different and do provide a different approaches where it works best. Let me take a minute and say that, all of us are aware multi-cloud is one where different clouds from different providers are used for a separate task. And when I mention this, this is where it differentiates largely, because Here we go by a service options which is available best for it. So it's an option of the best breed. I don't need to wait for a cloud giving me every. For example, suppose I want to look at as simple as an account payable as an automation in the digital space, where my by heterogeneity of the document comes, I do scan them, and there, whether it now in today's world we say more ICR than OCR, where a system reads even handwritten the noise on the document, but still gives me a proper extraction of the data. Now, when you compare multiple options, let's say Azure has, we recently when we tried, we get the best of the service. When we tried somewhere else, we get another best level. So the point which I'm here bringing is the given a business scenario, given a business requirement, if you feel that the best options are available given a one of the service provider, that's where the multi-cloud plays a role. Whereas the hybrid cloud, I would say more where regulatory spaces, especially in the pharma, where you don't want to get into complete multi-clouding, exposing your core processes to that. That's where your hybrid public-private will play a vital role. One of the examples I would like to also put it here is hybrid cloud works well, as I mentioned, where your process, people, technology triangulation does not have a great scope of expanding in either direction and break the equilateral triangle proposition. But if you are on a growth or a customer side where you want to try lot processes, the life cycle of your idea is very short, where you want to go quickly, do quick and dirty job and come out and see whether it's working or not. Your regulation does not hold you while you're experimenting to a large extent. It is not an SOP driven approach. Multi-cloud is the best option. So we internally also tried if else but then, but we found for operations where you have a lot of regulatory in pharmaceutical, you have a constraint about doing a process. It is strictly an SOP driven where you hardly have a wiggle. So that time hybrid cloud plays a good role. At the same time, when it comes to growth, customer facing, multi-cloud gives important, definitely revenue modeling, playing about the while we keep everything in this mind, as Ninad did mention about it, we definitely face practical challenges when we go about it. The first and foremost which comes is whatever you do, are you getting a vendor locking or not? Right from your database, sometimes even whether best of the cloud provider, where GCP, AWS, or anybody Azure, they will also tell you these are our tools which works best with our environment. We can give you the speed enhancement. We can give you the turn out time much faster. On the click, you will be able to see, especially when you don't want a lack of some of the modeling part of it. So there, that's where you will get solution, but you will have a very, very strong vendor locking, and that option you may not get when you switch from A. How would you do that? So you need to compromise, you need to adjust, you need to align. So these are some of the strategies which you have to keep it back of the mind, no matter what technology plays. And this difficulties you will get it. The second, definitely in the days of the cyber security, how much your pocket can invest onto the cyber security will play a vital role. The normal shell will be given to you, but I don't think in the days today, you see in pharma industries and are being attacked because of the very vaccines and other areas. Every day you see some of the other person is getting hacked. So is that if you want to create your private environment onto the cloud, will the economics support that? And also, once you start getting deeper, your other dimensions of the challenges start coming in. Economic side of it, the design perspective, or the limitations start become more proprietary, and these are some of the key areas which comes, though we are talking about best of the models available, whether it is storage side, monitoring sides, your control plane sides, application hardening side. So many options are available, but your organization today takes a call between a core and non-core, operations and customer growth. We talk about in pharma, for us, the patient safety, data integrity, product quality is paramount. Am I adding a risk by going there? Am I putting regulatory auditors at some kind of raised alarm in their mind when I look at it, going just running after the cloud because it gives some kind of lucrative options available and so on and so forth. So there are many challenges which it comes at the face. You will find I need to just walk, but when you start getting the nuances, start getting the counting the core areas, where and you do the risk assessment of it, you will always find the process becomes very iterative. So that's all,
All
Ninad,
right.
I added.
Yeah. Great, Dr. Avdul. I think those are very good insights. So, according to you, multi-cloud is the answer, but we'll have
Yes.
to kind of take care of the lock-ins with the service providers and so on and so forth. So, very nice. Let's quickly move on to our other elite panelist, Abhishek Kumar, who is from Deutsche Bank and he comes from the banking sector. Abhishek, as we know, any successful application modernization needs detailed planning, and that is really key. Can you share with us a blueprint for application modernization? Probably if you can keep it very brief, that would be great.
Sure, sure, Ninad. Uh, First of all, thank you so much for inviting me to speak about this topic. And I would like to talk about one scenario. And I remember Dr. Adhut was mentioning people, technology, and process. And for any application modernization, first we need to understand what exactly we are trying to achieve. It's not just jumping on reinventing the wheel or maybe rewriting the application as a whole. But first, we need to analyze, is it really going to benefit the organization? What are our basic needs? So first and foremost, identifying the need, which is going to be achieved by us. Goals actually should be listed first. Once that is decided, then we'll have to understand what kind of customers we have, which geography they belong to, what kind of needs they have, how frequently they connect to us, and what kind of operations or businesses they do with us. Based on that, we can decide on what all we are going to transform. Okay. So those kind of things we should talk about second. Third, if at all you are dealing in business which belongs to banking or financial sector, that is kind of more of uh, audit related challenges are there, and security is very prone to this industry, right? So where security comes in picture, and that is key for your organization, then you have to definitely think about it, that what you are going to do with your data. Are you going to move it to cloud? Are you going to keep it in a hybrid model? If at all you are considering multi-cloud integrations for different purpose, how it is going to settle, where exactly it is going to sit, and all that. So primarily, I would briefly say that first you need to understand what you are trying to achieve, and accordingly you have to carve out a plan. When you have a plan, then first and foremost thing is that you need to communicate to your organization. So communication is the key, because cloud and application modernization comes very technically, and it requires lots of effort to do that. But adoption is very key to this. So whatever functions today, will it be accepted by your audience tomorrow? That should be the first and foremost key. And that's where you need to start communicating early ahead to your organization and your customers, so that they are well aware that the change is coming. And this is how the change is going to look like. They should be aware of what benefits coming to their way. So they should be very keen and kind of well perceived by them. They can start giving their feedback. And those feedbacks can be incorporated in your cloud transformation journey or application transformation journey. So well ahead communication is fourth point I would like to mention, as well as if at all you decide on cloud. So cloud related multiple things are associated based on your requirements. You'll have to figure out what kind of storage you need, what kind of cloud model you need, what kind of deployment model you need, what all you want to kind of move to cloud, what all will go in first stage, second stage, third stage. So those kind of things should be considered, as well as you should very clearly carve out or maybe discuss and list down the risks you see. And those risks should be well ahead, taken care, at least discussed, not taken care. At least this should be discussed. So in summary, in short, I would say these are 5 points I would like to mention for cloud transformation.
Great insights, Abhishek. You spoke about the identifying of needs, customer demographics, and one key element is, of course, communicating to various stakeholders, including internal organizations and, more importantly, the customers also. I think these are very, very key and pertinent sort of points. Thanks for sharing that with us and with our audiences as well. Sudhir, I would want to kind of come back to you, and if you can, I mean, you are richly experienced in platform engineering, in your retail sort of industry. It would be great if you can share your experience pertaining to cloud implementation, especially in the AI context. I mean, as we all know, AI is like the buzzword nowadays. But if you can kind of talk about the cloud in the AI context, that would really be great.
Yeah, I mean, very pertinent question. Back when I started in the analytics space, this was Expedia almost a decade ago. I led the transformation of the tech stack from a traditional enterprise data warehouse to a Hadoop big data big stack. The industry has been continuously changing. Now, public cloud came in the early 2010s, and we were in an on-premise setup back then in Expedia. It took almost 3 to 4 months just to acquire the right kind of machines with the right kind of disk speed, the right kind of SSD, the right memory ratios, tune the system for the right throughput that we needed. And before we could begin experimentation for doing just basic ETL transformations, it took almost 3 to 4 months, if not more, maybe 6 months. Compare that with what is happening right now. Between then and now, I had a stint at AWS where I discovered that cloud, how it really transforms the thinking, given its unparalleled scale, and that's at users' fingertips, like I said. I think Neeraj touched on this very well. I think, containerization, thinking about how you want to package in the on-prem world and how would you take it to the cloud. You need to start thinking about that, get down to the level of details. Kubernetes has come in and it has really standardized the way things are packaged. And it enables streamlining and agility and modularization, not only within your organization and set you up for migrating from on-prem to the cloud or a hybrid cloud, but also if you were to, let's say, cost was becoming a factor and you wanted to move to a different cloud, it's easier, much easier now with Kubernetes and containerization in place. Now, if you see the new era startups, I've been fortunate to work with mostly new age startups and cloud, I must say, maybe cloud native companies from the get-go. I think transformation from the old to the new is a much harder proposition. If you start thinking from cloud, it is probably an easier journey. And one of the things that I have learned along the way is you need to be able to accept machine failures, program for failures a lot more, program for resiliency, especially in the e-commerce world. You'll need to figure out that you need to be up 24/7. There's no concept of downtime. You need to plan for blue-green deployments, lots of different things. You need to change a lot to bring agility into your overall development life cycle, SDLC, so to speak. You'll need to break up the monolithic service into a bunch of microservices that can be developed by individual teams independent of each other. So think about your organizational footprint also changing to adapt to a microservice-based ecosystem. And now with every team that owns a microservice getting access to the cloud, they would be able to independently deploy using their own deployment cycles. They don't need to wait for others, as long as you have the right regression tests and scale tests in place. You can unlock the agility in the org really. I think now startups are able to leverage the power of data when we talk about AI. From the get-go, all the new age startups in India now, they start being data first. They think data first, personalization, whether it is in the pharmacy space, retail space, in the food delivery space, there's so many things, so much excitement happening. And personalization will help you the stickiness. So think about agility, time to market, and now we can ship at breakneck speed like never before with this. And to aid the AI journey, you don't need to have experts. Also, you have most of the common recipes for AI already baked in nice little platform services offered by these cloud like AWS SageMaker or Azure ML and so on. So you can just activate them at a click, start using them, and voila, you're there. So elasticity, modularity, agility, democratization, rapid experimentation, and higher levels of abstraction, all coming together.
Great, great. I think these were very pertinent and insightful, sort of knowledgeable points as well. You spoke about Kubernetes standardizing sort of everything. Accepting failure is something from the technology world is very, very essential. I think that is a very good point that you touched based upon, because normally accepting failures is not something which comes naturally to anybody anywhere. And then, of course, microservice, from the monolithic to microservice. And of course, you touch base upon the data first element, that is really good, because I mean, more often than not in today's day and age, startup is something which is very, very good and which is really, really coming up now. Every organization wants to be a startup all over again as well, because of the agility and flexibility as well. So thanks, Sudhir, for those insights as well. Moving on to Neeraj. Neeraj is also from the retail sector, and you come from the retail sector. Neeraj, it would be great if you can share some insights into your journey of cloud adoption and deploying AI within the retail industry. If you can just keep it short for a couple of minutes, it would be great, Neeraj.
So the advantage that we had was we are a startup. We just started 4 years ago, and cloud has already penetrated. I mean, everybody was already they started using cloud. So the first thing that we did, currently, or even at the start of our journey, we did not own any on-prem equipment at all. We are entirely cloud company, or cloud enabled company, whatever you want to call it. We have absolutely zero on-prem equipment, because that is exactly why when the pandemic lockdown started, there was zero impact on our day-to-day operations when it came to building the IT stack, or most of the marketing or any other things. Of course, there was impact on the because of the delivery, because of the lockdown, we could not deliver the products that were there in our warehouse and all. But other than that, there was absolutely zero impact in the way we were working. That's the biggest advantage that we had of being on the cloud from the word get-go. Now, the other things that we are trying to implement currently in our company, and some companies have already implemented, is the marketing and customer analytics bits using ML to increase the customer stickiness, as well as to target the right kind of audience when it comes to our marketing, to spend our marketing dollars. And going forward, the chatbots, voice bots, sentiment analysis of the customer when the customer calls up. Now, I think Myntra, Flipkart has definitely already started. I think Myntra is already working on that, on sentiment analysis of it. So those are some of the things that we are trying to build as we go forward, along with on the supply side, the predictive analytics from the supply angle as well. It based on the kind of sales that are happening and the regions in which the sales are happening, understanding and predicting which kind of product needs to be put in which warehouse at the right point of time. Those are some of the things that we are trying to implement using ML, as we go along in our company.
Great, Neeraj. You spoke about the zero on-prem leading to zero negative impact to your business. I think that is a great business model, especially during the COVID pandemic that we were facing. I think most of the organizations face that. And I think your strategy of no on-prem and everything on the cloud probably has worked out wonderfully for you and the organization. I'm sure those are insightful sort of pointers for the entire audience, I think going forward as well, especially for the startup arena and the retail sort of sector as well. And moving forward from there, Neeraj, thank you so much. Dr. Avadhut, coming to you. You have come from a hospital and healthcare space where you have already implemented several cloud and AI transformation projects. That's what I hear from the industry and the market as well. What would be your recommendations to other technologists here who are in the audience who have just embarked on, would be embarking on their cloud and AI transformational journeys? So probably if you can give certain examples, keep it very short, Dr. Avadhut.
Yeah, so I think thanks, Ninad. Again, multi-cloud is a way where we have embraced the cloud, and we more from the perspective of the business value creation. And I would look at it as, when you look at the cloud, just don't look at a solution for organization, which definitely we all look at it, but look at from the ecosystem. Where can you look at your supply side partners, your customer side partners coming close, bring them together. So a lot of solutions which we have embraced. So how do you connect the external people, which is more a value creation for them, so that you don't need to, and there's a lot of models which are available today on the cloud, and the service provider has a lot of sensitive analytics of the patients or customer. You can always look at readily available model, try and do some kind of experimentation. That's where I'm sure you will start exploring the value of the data, the value of how you can also complement your partners, and then the combined value what increases is a huge. And I think that's where one of the area which we have explored a lot. Second is on the other side is the supply chain side, where we are trying to model a lot of AI to ensure that typical parameters of like working capital, the inventory management, how do I still infuse a just-in-time kind of approach. So these are some of the concepts which are trying to link with the different model part of using a demand planning at the very SKU level. How and we see there is a feasibility when we look at a lot of this models converging to this. So I think that's my view, is explore cloud, not only your internal function, but look at the ecosystem where you will have a value creation more than 4 to 5 facts.
Great, Doctor. I think that really comes from your rich experience of you deploying a lot of tools on the cloud and AI. Well said. You also spoke about looking at the entire ecosystem rather than any singular approach. And more importantly, what you touch based upon was looking at readily available models rather than recreating. Why reinvent the wheel where something is already available in the industry, which is proven as well. And I think that is both it helps the time to market and also it's proven technology. So I think that is a great point that you mentioned. Going forward from Dr. Avadhut, let's go to our other sort of elite panel, Abhishek Kumar. Abhishek, having come from the banking industry, in fact, you know what, I have been also talking to many technology leaders across varied industries, and we keep talking about it on a daily basis. And what comes across is that none of the cloud service providers have everything under one roof, and that is quite glaring, and that's another reason why you have so many other cloud providers available. Moreover, neither of them are best at anything and everything. In this context, can you share some insights as to how does one decide the cloud strategy and the best cloud provider? I'm sure this question is on everybody's mind here. What is a good strategy for cloud adoption, and what would be the best cloud provider?
Yeah, thank you, Ninad, for asking this. And actually, I would like to first say that what all has been discussed so far, that all goes together, along with what I'm going to talk about more, right? So all what Sudhir said, Neeraj said, Dr. Avadhut said, all are going to be there. Along with that, I'm going to explain some of those things. So around cloud strategy, I'll take some examples actually what I have done so far. So I was working with one of the security company who does provide antivirus solutions as well as lot many security solutions to enterprises. And that's where we were kind of planning to move from on-prem to cloud. And the major problem was that moving systems and applications to cloud was pretty easy because they were cloud ready, built so they were not monolithic systems, they were microservices based systems and all of them. And they were sort of managed even on-prem in sort of cloud related structure, right? So the application itself was readily available, and the migration strategy was pretty easy to do that. But when it came to data, the intelligence database which was maintained and almost 2 billion systems were connected, which were being monitored via some agents, and those informations were kind of stored and decisions were made. And antiviruses kind of work in that fashion, right? So they kind of track your user behavior, system behavior, your software behaviors, and then there are multiple informations fed via different sources. So those intelligence databases kind of come in under one roof. So those kind of informations cannot go on cloud. That was the real concern for the organization, and that's where we came into how to go to a cloud. And we started evaluating multiple cloud providers. Uh, we went to Google, we went to AWS, we went to Azure, at least 3 major providers we reached out and we discussed this problem. And everybody was keen that you come, we have this, that, and all that, right? But the major concern, what we wanted to address was security of data. And that was somehow not convincing for us, okay? So we preferred keeping that data to our on-prem, and we created a bridge. So between our cloud, so applications were moved to public cloud, and there was a bridge created between our on-prem database where we kept our intelligence database, and then all of them was kind of being interacting. The major problem was between that bridge is that uh, the the level of communication happening between your applications and the data, the read and write operations between them. And also uh, because you have to create such a model that goes into multi-geography, and your data is kind of uh, so replica is created in multiple places, but intelligence data is so huge that you cannot do that. So that was another challenge, and that's where there were multiple solutions proposed, and we kind of created multiple copies. We kept it to nearby uh, the servers where our cloud providers hosted their servers, so nearby that location, and then that breach was kind of happening there. So those kind of specific to security, the challenge I talked about. And there is one more I would like to talk about related to banking, because uh, whenever we are talking about cloud, majority of things, and at least one thing come into discussion is SRE, so site reliability engineering. And people talk about your deployment models, how early you can deploy your system, how better you monitor your systems. And as rightly Sudhir mentioned, right, that making sure that applications are, I mean, you are ready to accept the failure, right? So you ready to accept the failure, but how much percentage you are going to accept that failure, right? So SRE model is very keen and everybody is talking about it. So with respect to moving infrastructure and applications which are kind of letting you manage your organization stuff, that's where SRE came in picture. And with respect to banking, SLOs, SLIs, and those kind of things were very much clearly specified. There were monitoring systems in place. So even for monitoring, there are multiple tools being used nowadays. So there are multiple dashboards being used, and there are multiple processes already in place who does feed those information. So some of those are like your application logs being tracked, and they are two ways of doing it. They are reactive and proactive monitoring. So those kind of things are done. So proactive monitoring lets you, and that's definitely AI and ML being used, right? So indicate and predict that this system is going to fail because this is behaving this way, right? So models are trained and they're being trained day to day, right? So those proactive
Right.
monitorings are in place. Yeah.
Right, Abhishek. Yeah, great. I think those are very good insights from Abhishek as well from the banking sector. We are in fact out of time and hence probably will have to cut it short. We unfortunately don't have any time for taking questions from the audience, although we would have been really happy to take questions. But that was quite a power-packed discussion on the hottest topic within the technology circles, which is obviously the cloud and AI. I'm sure all of you would have gained important insights into strategies, planning, and what do we need to do, and what do we need to be mindful about whilst embarking on our cloud and AI journeys. With that, I would like to thank our panelists for sharing their valuable experiences and providing us deep insights around the groundbreaking cloud and AI technologies. I, along with the expert panelists, would also like to thank all of you for joining this session and making it very inclusive and interactive session as well. Finally, a big thank you to the TrustCon team for organizing and inviting us to the World Cloud Show. Thank you so much. I will hand it over to the host, please.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Neeraj. Thank you, Sudhir.
Thank you.
Abhishek. Thank you, Avadhoot, for joining us today. And thank you so much, Ninath, for executing the entire panel with your finesse and your expertise, and all our panelists, our esteemed panelists, for being so point on with all your answers and giving exactly what the audience was looking forth for. So thank you once again for joining us on the World Cloud Show India, everyone.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you.